Chapter 23. Richard and Ryan. Richard swallowed hard as he stood in the middle of the barn watching Ryan walk slowly toward him. So, if the bride came from this end, this is what it would look like. What do you think? She called out. It was easy to imagine her wearing a long white dress with a veil covering her face as she strode toward him. A picture formed in his head of what he would do as the minister said, "You may now kiss the bride." He would lean in close, wrap his arms around her, and "Richard, what do you think? Does this work for a wedding?" He opened his mouth to reply, but before he could, a little voice shrieked, "You're getting married, Mommy? Yay! I get a daddy!" Erica barreled toward him from the back of the building. She had been out playing in the orchard while they worked on figuring out a solution for the barn design. He blinked as the image he had been enjoying evaporated as the little girl crashed into his legs. "You're going to be my daddy, Mr. Richard. Can I call you daddy?" He stared at the little girl, shocked. His mouth opened and closed. He must look like a fish gasping for water. He felt like it. Pulling his eyes away from Erica's pleading gaze, he tried to gauge Ryan's reaction. She stopped where she was, a look of shock on her face, before hurrying towards them. Tearing his eyes from her, he looked down once more at the little girl. It was easy to picture himself marrying Ryan, and it was all too easy to picture having Erica as a daughter. He had never thought of having children, at least not yet. His focus had been on his career, and Sloane had never even hinted at wanting a family. But now that he was around Erica more, he could see the draw of having a child. Ryan's voice broke through as she stopped, pulling her daughter toward her. "No, sweetie, I'm not getting married. Mr. Richard and I were just working on the layout for the barn, so I needed to pretend to be a bride. That's all it was, just pretending." "Oh," the little girl sighed and kicked a foot against the floorboards of the barn. "But why not? Don't you like Mr. Richard?" Kneeling beside her daughter, she glanced up and met his gaze. He couldn't look away. There was something in her eyes, something he hadn't seen before. Desire? Maybe. He took a step forward. She broke eye contact, and he halted. She pulled Erica in for a quick hug. He turned to leave, but stopped. He couldn't go. He wanted to know what she would say to her daughter. "I do like Mr. Richard, Erica, very much." He felt as if his heart would stop at those words. Maybe some people would say this relationship had happened too fast, but he felt he knew more about Ryan than he'd ever known about any woman, including Sloane. "Then why? I want a daddy. Everyone I know has one. Rachel at school even has two, a daddy and a stepdaddy. I don't have any. It's not fair." Tears now glistened in Erica's eyes. Richard wanted nothing more than to sweep her up in a big hug and tell her it would be okay. He'd be her daddy. Ryan glanced at him again, but turned her focus quickly back to her daughter. "It doesn't work that way, honey. People can't just get married. They need to love each other first. Once they do that, then they get married." Richard heard the break in her voice when she said the word love. Had he been wrong? Was she more hung up on her deceased husband than he thought? "But you know Mr. Richard. We live in his house already. Most mommies and daddies live in the same house. I don't understand why Mr. Richard can't be my daddy." Ryan smiled at her daughter as she smoothed the hair off her face. "You're right. Most mommies and daddies live in the same house. But you can't just declare you're getting married. There's more to a relationship than that. You've got to be sure you can live with each other forever. Forever is a long time, isn't it?" "Yeah, I guess so. But I could live with Mr. Richard forever, and I could live on this farm forever. I love it here. I don't want to leave." "I know it's hard, sweetie. Trust me, okay? When the time is right, God will bring a daddy into your life, and he'll be the perfect daddy for you and the perfect husband for me." She met his eyes over Erica's shoulder, and he let out the breath he'd been holding. Did she really believe God would bring her a husband? Did it work like that? He'd been making his own way in the world for years. What would it be like to trust God in something as important as finding the perfect wife? Shoulders slumping, the girl said, "Okay, I understand. God's timing is perfect, no matter what." She pulled her daughter close, laying her cheek on top of her head. "It sure is, kiddo. It sure is." "I think I need a snack." Erica sank to the ground at Ryan's feet. He stepped forward, no longer content to wait out of arm's reach. "What's wrong?" "She's going low." She scooped her daughter up and started moving to the house. "Mommy, I don't feel so good." Erica's eyes rolled up and the little girl's head lolled to the side. Give her to me. He didn't wait for permission. He pulled Erica into his arms and sprinted for the house with Ryan close on his heels. He took the porch steps in 2 giant leaps. He managed to open the door and was through before Ryan made it up the steps to help. Where do you want me to put her? Panting from the run, she directed him. Lay her on the couch. I'll be right back. He laid the unconscious child on the couch. He had never felt so helpless in his life. Should I call 911? He yelled out. Not yet. She came sprinting back into the room. She skidded to a stop by the sofa and sank to the floor beside her daughter. Fumbling with the testing kit, she loaded a test strip with a shaking hand. He wanted to help, but he knew he would just get in the way. She loaded the test strip with blood. They waited for what felt like forever for the number to pop up. 35. How bad is it? He asked. He didn't know what the number meant. Call 911, she yelled as she once more ran from the room. He wasted no time. Yanking his phone out of his pocket, he swiped it open and dialed the 3 digits. He gave the dispatcher the address and details. She was back just as he finished speaking. She had a small red case in her hand. Tell them I'm giving her glucagon. He repeated the words to the dispatcher as she opened the case. With trembling hands, she removed a small syringe and vial. Do you need help? He asked her. Shaking her head no, she injected the liquid from the syringe into the vial. She removed the syringe and shook the vial to mix the tablet inside with the liquid she'd just added. Next, she drew the liquid back into the syringe. Taking a deep breath, she jabbed the needle into Erica's thigh. The little girl didn't even flinch. Jerking his head, Richard had been so focused on what Ryan had been doing, he hadn't realized the dispatcher was yelling in his ear. Roll her on her side, he barked at her. She pulled Erica to the edge of the couch just as the little girl's eyes fluttered open and she threw up. He heard the sirens blaring as the ambulance pulled into the driveway. Thanking the dispatcher, he hurried out the door to lead the way inside. Thanks, Dr. Adams. Yes, I will. Ryan tapped the button on her phone to end the call. Taking a deep breath, she blinked rapidly. She wouldn't fall apart now. She refused to think of the what-ifs. Her daughter was safe and home again. A few hours in the emergency department had stabilized her blood sugar, but all she could think about was how she could have lost her, just like that. Laying her shaking hands on the kitchen counter, she bent forward, breathing deeply. She wouldn't cry. Not now that it was all over. Dwelling on what could have happened wouldn't change anything now. She glanced over to where her daughter sat on the floor in the living room, playing with her dolls. Erica was the brightest point in her life, and after yesterday, she understood even more just how fast things could change. Thank goodness Richard had been there. She didn't think she would have been so calm if she had been alone. He'd helped keep her steady just with his presence. Are you okay, Mommy? A small hand slipped into hers as her daughter leaned into her side. She had been so engrossed in her thoughts she hadn't heard her daughter approach. I am, honey. What about you? How are you feeling? She squatted down and pulled her daughter into her arms to give her a tight squeeze. Erica wiggled out and smiled at her mother. I'm good. Just a little tired. Too tired to help me make cookies? She needed something to focus her energy on and to take her mind off things. Not that tired. The little girl clapped her hands and scurried into the kitchen. Ryan followed, smiling and thanking God for keeping her daughter safe. Let's put on some music. What do you want to listen to? She picked her phone up and tapped to open her music app. She looked expectantly at Erica, waiting for her request. How about Mercy Me? Sure. Erica had been obsessed with the band ever since finding out the lead singer's son was also a type 1 diabetic. She connected her phone to the Bluetooth speaker on the counter beside her and cranked up the volume. Soon the music filled the kitchen as she began pulling out the ingredients to make chocolate chip cookies. Erica was eager to help, and while she knew it would be faster and easier to do it herself, she wanted her daughter close to her today. Her heart swelled with emotions as she watched her daughter dance around the kitchen. Losing Eric had been hard enough. She couldn't bear the thought of losing their daughter as well. She was the last connection she had with him. Hey, slow down there, kiddo. Let's get some juice into you. Dr. Adams had warned her to keep a close eye on Erica today. There might be some lingering effects from the severe low sugar from yesterday. She wasn't about to take any chances. Pulling open the fridge, she pulled out the last juice box. Flipping it end over end, she caught it and presented it to her daughter with a flourish. The little girl giggled and clapped her hands. You're so silly, Mommy. Silly, am I? She raised an eyebrow at her. Well, maybe the silly monster needs to come out and you can see which one of us is sillier. Shrieking, the little girl fled the room. Ryan went running after her, stomping her feet and flailing her arms around, fingers splayed like claws. Erica was on the couch laughing so hard she could barely sit up. The silly monster is sillier than you, Mommy. She flopped down beside the giggling girl and handed over the juice box. Drink. Then let's get back to those cookies. The youngster drained it quickly. She bounced back to her feet and hurried into the kitchen. Ryan sat for a moment, catching her breath, and said a brief prayer of thanks for her daughter's life. Seems like I'm missing all the fun. Startled, she whirled towards the door. Richard, I didn't hear you come in. She wondered how long he'd been standing there. Sorry about the noise. I'll go turn down the music. Before she could rise, he was there, holding out a hand to her. She eyed it and him before accepting his offer. With a quick yank, he pulled her to her feet and right into his embrace. Richard! The music is fine. The noise is fine. You're perfect. Erica is adorable. Do I need to cover anything else? She stilled. I'm not perfect, Richard. No one is. Don't put me on a pedestal. In my eyes, you are perfect. Nothing you say will change that. She huffed out a laugh. Give me time. Now let me go. I need to go check on Erica. He looked over her head towards the kitchen. She's eating chocolate bits and dancing around the kitchen. She looks fine to me. He dropped his head and locked eyes with her. She swallowed hard, but couldn't look away. His dark brown eyes held her captivated, and in that moment she remembered the conversation she'd had with Erica right before her daughter had collapsed. She wanted him to be her daddy. She wanted them to be married. Her eyes dropped to his lips. Biting her lower lip, she forced herself to look back into his eyes. She wouldn't initiate the kiss. Her eyes dropped once more to his mouth. Richard, I'm going to kiss you. Before she could say anything, he lowered his head and claimed her lips. She shouldn't be kissing him where her daughter could see. Her thoughts trailed off as he wove his fingers into her hair. He pulled her closer, deepening the kiss. She heard a small groan, but didn't know if it came from her or from him. And right now, she didn't care. Mommy? She pulled back, breaking the kiss, eyes opened in shock as she met his. Mommy, why are you kissing Mr. Richard if you aren't married? Heat flooded her face. Her daughter had just caught her making out with Richard. What kind of example was she setting? What kind of mother did that? She has a point. What? He wasn't suggesting what she thought he was he? I want Mr. Richard to be my daddy. If you're kissing, doesn't that mean you should be married? Her eyes flew to the little girl and back to his. Stepping back quickly, she smoothed her hands down her shirt and wiped a hand over her lips. She opened her mouth to say something, but shut it. Opened, closed. Not knowing how to respond, she took the coward's way out. She whirled and hurried up the stairs, leaving both her daughter and Richard standing in the living room. How had she lost control like that? She flopped onto her bed like a teenage girl, one arm thrown over her eyes as she replayed what had just happened. Her heart rate once more increased at the memory of what his lips had felt like on hers. One hand drifted to cover her mouth, trying to trap the feeling there. And his hands in her hair, how he pulled her closer, how she'd felt safe, how every thought had fled, even thoughts of her little girl. Her sigh filled the room. She'd crossed the line she'd set, and now she needed to figure out how to fix it. All Ryan knew was she couldn't continue living here, especially if she was going to pursue a romantic relationship with Richard. And right now, that's very much what she wanted to do. But she needed to set an example for her daughter to follow, and living with someone before marriage was not it. Sitting up, she began putting together a plan. She would talk with Abigail tomorrow. Either Abigail or one of her sisters would likely know of someone who had a place she could rent. But what about her agreement with Richard? She wasn't sure how much more work they had left to do. And if she was being honest with herself, she didn't want to leave the farm. She'd grown to love it here. Summer was getting closer, and the trees were almost to full bloom. She loved walking there. It was magical. Lord, what are you doing? I don't want to confuse my daughter. I want to honor you in my relationship. Help me know your will in this. Make it clear. She needed to get back downstairs and finish making cookies, but she wasn't sure she could face him after running away like that. Her face flamed even now at the thought of facing him again. She was acting like a lovesick teenager. Sighing once more, she decided the cookies could wait. Closing her eyes, she continued to pray, seeking the peace of God to help calm her mind and her racing thoughts. Chapter 24. Richard. Richard's encounter with Ryan had been impulsive, and he knew he shouldn't have kissed her in front of Erica. But when he'd entered the house after working in the orchard all day, a longing for family had overtaken him. He'd acted without thinking. Despite this, he had no regrets. He knew he should go after her to apologize, but he wasn't sorry. He would kiss her again in a heartbeat given the opportunity, and he fervently hoped another chance would present itself. Now he stood at the bottom of the stairs, debating with himself if he should go check on her, or if he should let her figure it out on her own. Remembering his promise to never enter the second floor without permission had him turning away. Erica stood in the doorway to the kitchen watching him. "You okay, kiddo?" "Why were you kissing Mommy?" The little girl stared at him with a solemn face that made her look older than her 7 years. "Because I like her." Richard went to sit on the couch and patted the seat beside her. The little girl joined him, hands clasped tightly together in her lap. "Grown-ups are weird." He held back the laughter that wanted to spill out. He didn't think she would appreciate it. He hoped his expression didn't betray his amusement. "Yeah, sometimes we are. I'm sorry if it upset you to see me kissing your mom." He almost held his breath as he waited for her response. "It's okay. I don't mind when you kiss her. Jimmy Foster tried to kiss me at school a few days ago." "Oh, did you want him to?" "No, I punched him." Erica shrugged her shoulders. "I don't understand why grown-ups like it so much. It's gross." She faked a barf into her hands. Richard lost the battle. He laughed so hard he was in danger of falling off the couch. "What's so funny?" The little girl looked at him with confusion as he worked to gain control. "Always remember that. Boys are gross. Don't kiss them. Ever." He still had a grin on his face, but he'd finally gained some control. "If kissing Mommy is gross, why did you do it then?" "Well," he scratched his head to buy himself a minute. "It wasn't gross. One day when you're all grown up, you won't mind a boy kissing you so much. You might even like it." She gave him a skeptical look. "What? Don't you believe me?" He chuckled as he ruffled the little girl's hair. "Do you want to marry my mommy? Mommy said only people who are married should kiss." He stopped chuckling as he stared at the girl. His mind whirled with the possibility. In fact, he was having a really hard time coming up with a reason why it would be a bad idea. He took a deep breath. "Yeah, I think I do. What do you think?" "I'd like that. I think you'd be a great daddy. Mommy was making cookies. Do you want to come help?" Richard tried once again to keep up with the fast-shifting topics of conversation. He was getting better at it the more time he spent with Erica. "That's probably not a good idea. I've never made cookies. Why don't you wait for your mom to come downstairs to help you?" "All right. But what should we do now?" Slumping back against the couch, he let his head fall backwards with a sigh. The situation with Ryan had left him feeling unsure of what to do next. Turning to Erica, he suggested, "Why don't you go read for a while, honey?" He needed some time alone to think things through and devise a plan to fix the mess he created. A small hand slid into his, and he turned his head to look at her. She had scooted closer and was now cuddling against his side. "Can I stay here with you?" Putting his arm around her, he pulled her closer. "Sure, kiddo." They fell silent, and he started putting together a plan to win over Ryan once and for all. It was risky, but it was a chance he was willing to take. The stakes would be high, so he knew he had to do it right. He was going to need help. "Erica, do you want to help me surprise your mom?" She sat up beside him, eagerness lighting her eyes. "Oh, yes!" she exclaimed as she clasped her hands under her chin. "What are we going to do?" "I'm still working on the details, but it's a surprise, so you can't tell anyone. Not a word, not a hint to anyone. Not your mom, not anyone at the cafe, not Jimmy Foster. No one." He mimed zipping his lips, locking them, and tossing away the key. "Not a single word. Can you do that?" The little girl smiled and then did the same thing, zipping, locking, and tossing, just like Richard. She nodded her head up and down so hard she almost fell off the couch. He shot out a hand to steady her. Laughing, he put his plan into motion. "Do you know your mom's favorite food?" Richard stood in front of the mirror in the bathroom, adjusting his tie. He couldn't believe he was letting his heart rest in the hands of a 7-year-old girl who rarely kept her mouth closed. If Erica thought it, she said it. But as of this morning, Ryan had given no hint she knew what was coming tonight. Except for one little giggle, the little girl had kept her pinky promise to not tell Ryan what he planned for this evening. His uncle's lawyer had called earlier to see how things were going. "When can I see some financial statements? You're already into the second quarter." Richard had assured him the farm was coming along. "Soon. I'll get them to you by the end of the week." Swallowing hard, he asked, even though he knew the answer, And what happens if they don't meet with your approval? He would hate to see the hard work he and Ryan had put into the farm go up in smoke, figuratively and literally. The fire department gets it unless you can show a profit. There's still time before a final decision. I want to see if you're on the right track. Richard shook his head. He needed to focus on the now and not on what might or might not happen in 6 months. Standing back, he took a deep breath. Abigail would be here soon to pick up Erica. Then he would put the rest of the plan into motion. Once he talked Ryan into being in the same room with him alone. She had been avoiding him all week, using her daughter as a buffer. Every time he had attempted to talk to her, she would make an excuse to go do something else. It was frustrating, but also kind of adorable. He had almost cornered her in the laundry room one day, but thought better of it. He didn't want to make her mad at him. No, he wanted her to feel something else entirely. Abigail! Richard heard Erica's voice echo down the hall. It was showtime. He made one last adjustment, nodded at his reflection, and headed out to intercept Ryan. But I don't understand. Why are you here, Abigail? Confusion laced Ryan's voice. You'll have to ask that hunk of a man behind you. Got everything you need, kiddo? Yep. Bye, Mommy. Erica waved at the two adults standing on the porch. Wait, Abigail, what's going on? Erica, come back here right now. It's my fault, Richard said. Ryan whirled to look at him. Why are you all dressed up? And you'd better start explaining fast, because I'm not in the mood to have my daughter whisked off to Abigail's without my permission. Will you trust me? He held out a hand. She placed both of hers on her hips. Start talking. He took a step back. Okay, then. I wanted to spend the evening with you. You've been avoiding me and using Erica to do it, so I asked Abigail to take her for a few hours. She stared at him. You did what? Ryan, I've missed you. I've missed talking with you about the plans for the farm. I just wanted some time alone with you. Can we do that? Can we have dinner and just enjoy each other's company for a few hours without Miss Chatterbox within earshot? He smiled, hoping she would agree and not demand to follow Abigail to take Erica back. She blew out a puff of air and let her arms fall. I can't do this, Richard. I can't get serious about anyone right now. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to Erica to have you in our lives and have you leave once you sell this place. He stepped forward. Please, trust me. I want to explain, and I will. Will you come with me so I can do just that? He held out a hand once more, hoping she'd take it this time. Sighing, Ryan eyed him once more. Finally, she reached out and took his hand. Okay, but let me change out of this. She waved a hand at the faded, paint-stained jeans and Auburn Community College sweatshirt she had on. It looks like this is a dress-up affair. Give me 10 minutes. Perfect. He watched as Ryan hurried up the stairs. 10 minutes would give him just enough time to grab what he needed from the kitchen and be ready to go. He prayed this evening would end the way he imagined.